All right, let's just jump right into this explainer and unpack the wild rise and the incredibly shocking fall of Britain's oldest merchant bank, Baring Brothers. We're looking at a story that honestly reads like a Hollywood thriller, but it is entirely real. This was an institution so powerful, it was basically considered a peer to entire empires. And yet, it was brought to its knees in the absolute blink of an eye. Just think about the sheer contrast here. We're talking about an institution that took over 2 centuries, 233 years to be exact, to build this immense, really unparalleled global power, only to lose every single ounce of it in a matter of days. It's one of the most dramatic, cautionary tales in financial history. And, it all traces back to a time way, way before modern trading floors even existed. Section 1. The Rise of Barings, from wool to the world stage. So our story kicks off in the 18th century, way back before the United States even declared independence. Their humble origins actually started in 1717. You had this German immigrant named Johann Baring, who later went by John, and he leaves Bremen to settle in Exeter, England, building up a pretty successful wool manufacturing business. But it was really his sons who took that family fortune and pivoted into finance. In 1762, they officially found John and Francis Baring and Company in London. And as the firm grew and Francis's sons joined the fold, it officially became Baring Brothers and Company in 1806. Now, while the older brother, John, was kind of your classic silent partner, Francis was the true engine of the whole operation. The guy was an extraordinary operator. He quickly turned himself from a merchant son into a high society elite. He became a director of the massively influential East India Company, and he was even serving as a close advisor to Prime Minister William Pitt the Younger. His relentless drive for the firm's growth eventually got him made a baronet in 1793, so he officially became Sir Francis. But we do have to acknowledge that, like a lot of British merchant houses in the 18th century, Baring's early growth and their diversification out of wool and into global commodities was deeply intertwined with financing and profiting from the transatlantic slave trade. It's a dark, uncomfortable fact, but it is absolutely essential for understanding exactly how these massive early merchant fortunes were built from the ground up. Section 2. Financing the global stage, wars and empires. By the 1790s, the firm's focus shifted heavily toward government finance. The bank really cemented its reputation as this European powerhouse by effectively bankrolling the British war effort during the French Revolutionary and Napoleonic Wars, which raged from 1793 all the way to 1815. Think about that. They weren't just moving money around anymore. They were literally funding the survival and the expansion of the British Empire during one of its most turbulent eras. To really put their scale into perspective, take a look at this $15 million figure. In 1803, working right alongside the Dutch bank Hope and Company, Barings actually helped structure and finance the legendary Louisiana Purchase. They facilitated the sale of roughly 830,000 square miles of French territory to the U.S. for $15 million. They quite literally doubled the size of the United States. And amazingly enough, even though they were a British institution, they later became the primary financial agent for the U.S. government and actually helped finance America during the War of 1812. I love this quote from 1818, supposedly from a French diplomat, because it perfectly captures their scale at the time. He said, "There are 6 great powers in Europe: England, France, Austria, Prussia, Russia, and the House of Baring." They were no longer just a bank, right? They were viewed as an untouchable global power, standing shoulder to shoulder with sovereign nations. They even became the leading financial agent for countries like Argentina, Canada, and Russia. Section 3. The first warning sign, the 1890 crisis. But even empires have their blind spots. Because they were so heavily involved in South America, Barings actually severely overextended itself on Argentine investments right as that country's economy collapsed in 1890. It nearly destroyed them. Only a massive emergency rescue organized by the Bank of England saved them from total ruin. Now, that close call contrasts really sharply with their fatal 1995 collapse, where, spoiler alert, no such rescue was possible. It's also worth noting that while they survived 1890, they were overtaken by the Rothschild family as London's top merchant bank. Following that massive warning sign in 1890, they spent the next century completely rebuilding their image. They transitioned into this spotless, conservative, blue-chip institution. They basically became the ultimate byword for old money stability in London. They were so trusted, in fact, that they became the official bankers to the British royal family. Outwardly, they appeared utterly unshakable. Section 4. One traitor Total collapse, the 1995 catastrophe. Now let's fast forward to February 1995. The pacing of our story drastically shifts here, from slow, steady, century-long prestige to rapid, unstoppable panic. Enter Nick Leeson. He was a 28-year-old derivatives trader working half a world away, running Barings operations in Singapore. The absolutely critical flaw here was that Leeson was operating with almost zero independent oversight. He was secretly hiding mounting trading losses in an unauthorized account, essentially playing this massive, high-stakes game of double or nothing with the bank's money just to cover up his initial mistakes. Let's step through exactly how this perfect storm came together. Step 1. Leeson's secret bets were already bad, and they were quietly piling up. Then, Step 2. A massive external shock. In January 1995, the devastating Kobe earthquake struck Japan. This natural disaster sent the Japanese stock market, the Nikkei index, crashing. Which brings us to Step 3. Because Leeson was heavily exposed to the Nikkei, his unauthorized positions went catastrophically wrong. The secret losses just spiraled completely out of his and frankly anyone's control. £830 million. By the time executives back in London finally uncovered this hidden account, the losses totaled roughly £830 million. To put that insane number into perspective, that was more than the bank's entire capital base. Literally, one 28-year-old trader had effectively dug a financial black hole larger than the 233-year-old institution itself. There was no way out. And here is the ultimate tragedy. The mighty House of Baring, the institution that had funded the Napoleonic Wars, navigated 2 world wars, and bankrolled the expansion of the United States, was completely insolvent. In a matter of days, the historic merchant bank was sold off to the Dutch bank ING for a symbolic and honestly humiliating £1. £1. In the immediate aftermath, Leeson fled Singapore, which sparked this massive international manhunt, while the legendary merchant bank itself basically dissolved overnight. But, the Barings name didn't vanish entirely from the financial world. Its asset management arm actually survived the collapse. It was spun off and still operates today as a massive global investment manager under MassMutual, overseeing hundreds of billions of dollars. But that core historic banking empire? Gone forever. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a thought to really ponder. We just watched a meticulously built, centuries-old financial titan, an institution deeply ingrained in the global economy, get completely wiped out overnight by one rogue employee hiding spreadsheets. If an institution of that magnitude, with all its history and power, was truly that vulnerable, well, just how fragile are the complex, high-speed financial systems holding our money today? Think about that next time you check your balance.